Hi, this is Rook Mostly Harmless, and we're talking about Dreadnought today. We've just been playing this exciting game. About six of us were playing it together last night. We are having a blast, and it's basically, I think, World of Tanks, or maybe it's like World of Submarines. Um, it's it's a spaceship game where you're moving around using your with a full, of course, Z axis added to the game. You need to use cover. You need to use focus fire. You need to work with your teammates to get the job done and have a lot of fun. Um, the scale, think more like a Star Trek scale. These are ships that are 800 meters long almost. The Corvette's the smallest ship and fastest ship in the game is about 100 and something meters long. These are big ships. These are not TIE fighters and interceptors from Star Wars. Um, the that makes for a slower movement, a more strategic placement. But then you also have the ability to warp, which, as you'll see in some of this gameplay, is just a lot of fun. It makes for some exciting plays. Uh, it may or may not be, as Grim was saying to me the other day, it doesn't have to be effective as long as it looks badass, and it does. The game at the moment is closed beta. You can with for just $10 you can get in and try a bit of the game and see what it's like, and it's open and running all the time. Open beta will be coming sometime here in 2017, and there have been a lot of recent developments. One of the bigger changes from when I saw it at PAX 2 years ago was that it's now gone from 5 versus 5. They're trying 8 versus 8. I feel that this is just really dynamic. It's the action is very fast paced, and it makes for some very exciting fights. Having that combination, the maps are tight. This is not World of Warships where the battles take a long time. The fights take from 10 to 20 minutes, and they're fast paced and exciting. There are different modes of arena combat. They are all arena combat. There is a new one called Onslaught that does have a bit of objective PvE content that you can kill to win the game as well. And certainly fighting over that changes the fleet makeup that you might want to have. Now there are 5 different ships in the moment in this game, or ship types. There are a total of I think it's um, 51 different ships that you can buy in the game eventually. 17 for each of the 3 major leagues. They're not divided up by, well, the ships are divided up by light, medium, and heavy, uh, but that doesn't mean it goes that way with the different classes of or manufacturers. Each of them has a broad spectrum of ships. So plenty of ships to buy. You buy them by earning silver in the game. You don't buy them with real game or real money. There is the option to buy additional stuff with real money, cosmetics, and the option to sort of level faster through elite status, and possibly by changing some experience that you earned on a ship to a what's called a gold XP or free XP that you can use on any ship. So there are some options if you're a busy working person to spend your time at your work still and with your family and still play the game and be competitive by spending just a little bit of money. Um, and I think that's good. I think it's important to have the game be successful economically so that I can keep so that we can all keep enjoying it. Um, Now, one of the hardest or most interesting things about this game is the energy management. Sure, everybody's got their primary weapon, everybody's got their secondary weapon, everybody's got their 4 modules that they can use, so it's a nice limited range there with a lot of neat combinations and possible wombo combos by people using like a stasis field or a scramble field around them after they warp in on some people and then nuking that whole group. There are some neat combinations that way. And there are some officer briefings, which you start getting after you get into your tier 3 ships. These are basically to augment your ship and give it a little bit of a passive bonus, usually. Um, but in addition to all those things, there is energy management. It's critical. It's like your health pool. It does regen on its own. Health and energy can both regen after about 6 seconds of not being used, I believe it is. Um, then it will regen quite quickly, but you have to figure out how you're going to use it, because if you go into a fight and say you warp in on some enemies and then you don't have the energy to either hit your speed boost and get away or hit your shields and survive, you're going to have a rough time. So It's an important part of the game. The energy can be used for speed, shields, or damage to your weapons and stuff. The speed uses the least amount, about 2 energy per second, while damage and shields use about 6 per second. Excuse me. And we'll discuss a bit more about that, how it varies with the Dreadnought here and other ships versus damage reduction and blocking in just a second. Um, I think that's about it. For this first part here, the armor. There's no armor in the game except for the modules that can boost your damage resistance. The Basically think of armor as your health pool. So if you've got a tanky ship, you're going to have a larger health pool, and that'll reflect that. But there are tanky ships like Dreadnoughts that can get damage reduction and can also give that to other ships around them. So with certain modules. Um, so let's take a look here at the manufacturers and the different things that happen through that in the other mode here. 1 second. So that's some of the exciting basics of the game. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty details here. You start off at the dashboard. Basic things, you can get your statistics for your kill ratios and ribbons and friends and so on and how they're doing. Forums, of course. In the hangar, though, you'll see what you have in your fleet. You start off with recruit ships. You can add those, level them up. You can add ships by, of course, a left click, and once you've added them, you can right click to remove from the fleet. You can only do this while you're not in matchmaking. You can't change it right in the middle. It's worth noting that when you look at a particular ship, you can change the appearance, coding, pattern, emblem, decal being at the front of the ship, and make it look badass. This is our mostly harmless color there, the Hellborn. It's fun to be able, as a group, to do our fleet in certain colors and stuff. But what's of course even more fun is knowing how to use the game better to get some things off. This isn't necessarily the best combination of things, but just having this guy level on the side. Look at all those turrets. That is awesome. The health pool is all that represents how tanky you are. This is a light dreadnought called the Gravis. However, there are modules like this armor amplifier that only the dreadnought can get, and that's something that will give you that tankiness. 85% damage resistance for 12.5 seconds with a good cooldown. Plus the dreadnought, when it hits its energy to shields, it can absorb, I think it's about 60% of the damage in the shields, and there's no extra penalty for that. All the other ships, whenever they take damage, they take not only the 6 energy per second that their shields are on, they also take additional damage or use additional energy by the amount of damage that they're absorbing. So their shields go down very quickly. Their shields might absorb 80% to a full block. The Dreadnought doesn't absorb as much. It absorbs 60% is the last I heard, but incredible that it doesn't use up its energy. That's, the 120 energy that it might have. It might last a full 20 seconds there, giving you enough time to get your next armor amplifier up again. So very neat that way. And then there's different things, like I could actually put in here, instead of this officer briefing, I could put in it's a trap. Whenever I take damage from behind, I gain energy, thus allowing me to be more tanky as I, turn around, take the damage, and start gaining energy to keep those shields up. So there's a lot of neat combinations that you can do. Let's actually look at the manufacturers. Let's look at this one in particular. So this is a tier 3 ship. To get to it, I had to level a healer. I then had to go down and open up this artillery cruiser by spending this silver stars, which is basically your experience or fame in a particular ship that you've played with in the game and enjoyed playing the healer. It's very good. Then you can get to the Furia, which is an artillery cruiser. This particular light artillery cruiser has a full 360-degree range, so it's unique that way, but it doesn't have those big shots. It has lots of little shots that it does, and so good if you miss. I then had to go down and level up the tier to get straight down, open up these pathways to unlock. So I had to get silver fame. I did not have to I had to get experience. I did not have to buy stuff, but I did choose to buy stuff. So that's the silver cost to buy some stuff early on. All of this could change, of course. This is just one example, but I think it's an example that's working on their model here. I'll tell you more about that in just a second. Anyways, that got me down to the tier 3 artillery cruiser. I did have to buy that so that I could then get experience to get into the Dreadnought. Now, there's some discussion about this model and stuff. I think it works. Like, it gets you to spend money. The game needs to make money to survive, and this certainly got me to spend a little bit of money. I was like, well, I'd like to get down to this as quickly as possible. And what I actually did was I played some other ships, and then I used this free XP. I actually spent a little bit of money, and I converted XP in ships that I really wanted to play or enjoyed playing or did really well in to gold XP, and that gold XP you can use wherever you want. So I was able to just quickly get into that ship by playing ships that I was better at or had more tricked out. Um, and then from here, basically, I'm unlocking stuff to eventually get down to spend 65,000 fame by possibly playing that ship a lot, and then I think it's about 100,000 silver at the moment. Again, numbers could change, but that's to get me down to the next ship. Now, what's neat about that is you might later on, like this game's got a lot of potential longevity because, great, I'm in this light dreadnought, it's really good. However, what I really want is from this healer, I want this officer briefing. Let's find out where it is. Adrenaline shot. So I might level up some other stuff later in the game, after I've been playing a while, because this chief engineer briefing, this officer briefing, allows me to gain energy whenever I'm being healed. Well, as the tank, I'm going to be healed a lot, and if I can gain energy that way, then that's going to be awesome for me to stand on the front line, gain energy, and keep shielding, using my armor boost, shielding some more, and just keep firing away and be there as the tank up front. So even though you've leveled a particular ship, you then may want to level another ship to get additional skills. Um, a couple of other things that might help you out in the game. Of course, there's the reticle. When you're firing on
He's
people,
super
it
out of
will
position. He's
actually
about to die.
be at red when you are within the optimal range. That's the short range where you do the most damage. Damage will fall off after that into the medium
He's
and long
down.
range.
Flanking
The
around on their dreadnought on the
short
right.
range for
Smasher.
most ships is below 1,200 meters. The medium range is about 1,200 to 2,400 meters, and long range is up to 5 or 7 kilometers, depending on the ship type. The It's actually interesting. The medium and heavy destroyer get that 7K max range, whereas the light destroyer is more of a bursty kind of closer range, but lightly armored ship. The medium dreadnought also gets that 7K range, whereas the heavy and light are closer. The fall off is quite extreme for the corvettes, the small ships that you expect to have to assassinate from close by, and not quite as bad for the some of the destroyers and stuff. So certainly look at those yellow, orange, and red colors. Get a feel for that. Get a feel for your X's. Of course, when you're hitting people and leading the target is important. Um, a really important thing that you're going to probably make a mistake on a couple of times. I know I have is firing things like the Goliath torpedo. I believe it's the nuke and the catapult bombs as well. But some of these weapons, if you are too close to them, while there's no friendly fire, there is friendly fire to yourself, so you can blow yourself up with some of these weapons. You'll see a detonate option on those weapons, and if you're too close, you'll go boom as well, or take the damage at least. But don't forget those shields will give you up to 85% reduction or full block for some of the corvettes and stuff, depending on how much damage you're going to take. 60% on the dreadnoughts. Um, Oh, and huge thing. At the moment, this will of course change, and they're working out their maintenance fees and stuff. But for the veteran fleets, put a tier 2 ship at the front. Currently, it makes a difference. It reduces the cost. Fill up the entire row with. Don't leave it blank because that'll affect the cost as well. It's better to have other ships in it, and that'll keep the cost down to a nice number. We'll see how those numbers adjust in the future, but it's certainly a good tip just to keep you pursuing those lovely modules and everything else you're looking to get in this game. All right, before we go here, I want to take a look at the scale, the beautiful artwork in this game. It is a AAA looking title. I'm looking forward to seeing them at PAX South here in a few weeks. But just look at this; it's just gorgeous and shows. Also, don't forget too with this game that there's a bit of a rock paper scissors element. The Corvette is seen as an OP ship, but once you know how to mitigate it, it's pretty easy to get through. So, for instance, you might have artillery cruisers on one team, so the other team brings out some Corvettes to try and fight them. Then the other team might switch from artillery cruisers to a tactical cruiser, which can keep a beam on a Corvette pretty easily. Do keep in mind that with the tactical cruisers, the 3 different versions, the light, it doesn't have a heal beam, it's just a damage beam, but it does have healing mods that it can get. The medium is a bit of a mix. It can both heal and do damage with its beam, but it doesn't do as much of either. And then the heavy healer tactical cruiser is just full-on healing with potential for damage mods or heal mods depending on what it fits onto it. So there's a lot of flexibility there, but that's one case which is a bit unique, whereas most of the other ships are full-on, you know, the Dreadnoughts, the destroyers, the bombers, the Corvettes have the same mods available to each of them. All they have, what that's different, is a different health pool. So heavies, of course, have more, and then the lights should be the faster ships for most of that. So it's still in development, but what a great first look. This is Rook with Mostly Harmless, and we'll see you out on the battlefield.
Goliath locked. Drain torpedoes locked onto contact. That's why you're the
Ah, my
captain.
first Corvette kill!
Eliminated, Captain.
It was glorious!
Captain.
Really?
Thank you.
Nice. Oh, yeah.
I ate that Corvette alive.